Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Air Kitty. Alright, as I promised, I was gonna just start off with the next episode right from where I left off. Legit, I haven't even gotten through the screen from the results of the activities from the last thing, the deep inside part. So, there was a lot more activities than I thought that required a lot more in depth stuff. One, two, three. Color my heart.
The colors you are drawn to reveal your personality. Click on your favorite shade and see what it says about you.
Black, like my soul. It's not actually black. That's blue. Can I mix colors? Cause I'd like to mix colors. Oh, perfect. I'm Peach from Mario, the princess. The spiritual and ceremonial appeal to you. You are filled with intuition. There's that word again. While you love all things fine and beautiful, you are fundamentally unselfish. Oh, that's sweet, actually. So I'm kind of wondering, because the colors... So I am mostly drawn to purple, but so the other two colors I use for the channel are black and white. Not just because of the fact of they're just standard colors in a sense that can go with everything, but mostly for the fact of those are two colors I'm also very drawn to. I also like the colors black and white. So, princess is one. What about... okay, let's do the... Try this. I want to see what the try this is first, and then we'll go back to the results. So, diary. Go to your diary and dream up the best colors for your room, your car, and an outfit. Why do they have your in quotations next to car? I have a car. It is mine. I mean, technically the bank still kind of owns it because I haven't paid it off, but it is my car. My name's on it. And I mean, I like the color that my car is. Because literally on the paperwork, the color of the car is not even a color, really. The color is called Celeste. That is the color. Olaf likes that color, apparently. I feel like I should take a picture of this, or say print or something. Oh, you know what, actually, can I print? Because I'm using my Windows computer. I can actually print it to my actual printer, which is fantastic. This is the one really great thing about using... I'm gonna go into pictures, actually. Make a new folder called Let's Talk About Me. I need this smaller so I can figure out what to call this. Color my heart results activities. Save. I should go back and do that for the other ones, and I will do that, but off camera, so again, I'm not taking up time in the recording. From this point forward, though, of course, if we do more of these quiz things, I will print out the results for myself, so that way I have them for just either to put up on the Google Drive, as well as to probably use further down the line, because obviously there's a lot of these diary entry stuff. Would you stop? Come here. Olaf has this chronic problem of not knowing which side of the door he wants to be on. Olaf. And so he consistently will try to break down my door to get to the other side. I need to put a cat door on this door real bad. Olaf. Come sit up here with mommy. Come on. Come on. I know. I love you too, buddy. Come on. Let's go. Yeah. Good boy. But okay, so the diary entry. Go to your diary and actually. Oh wait, shoot, I can't look at it right now. Dang, not without quitting the game, which I don't want to do. Oh well. Or actually, oh, I can preview it, right? Ignore. Oh, well. Never mind. Now I can look at it because my game just quit. That's fine. Okay. Back to where I was. We're now on the think part of the activities for the color my heart. Think of the person in your life who is the best example of each color. Okay. I don't remember the colors, but okay. Go to the mall. Love that idea already. Try on a hat. Don't love that idea already. That's lice waiting to happen, so no. High tops. Maybe. Dress or jewelry. Again, maybe. In the color which most attracted you. Then try on one in a color that attracted you least. Notice how different you feel in each one. Again, I'm at a point in life where I'm pretty solid on how I feel about myself, so I'm like, I don't feel like I need to explore these feelings, but I don't know, maybe for fun I'll do it. Friend. Get a group of friends together. Sit in a circle with paper and pencil. Each girl must write down what color they think best describes every other girl. Fold each of the papers and toss them into the circle. Read the results. Do your friends know you? That actually would be kind of an interesting game to play, is like, obviously it says girls, but obviously I have guy friends too. So it's the thing of, I'd probably apply this to them as well, but yeah, it's like I'm trying to like think of like every single, I'm trying to think of actually all my friends and like what color would I best describe with them, and I guess. And it's weird because I'm like, I have a few colors picked out, but then it's like kind of one of those things where it's like, I feel like one of the steps I'd take is like take a moment to look at the person when you write the color. Like stare them down if you have to. Ask a boyfriend. What boyfriend? I don't have that anymore. Parent. I mean, I have both of those, but one of them is not as accessible as the other one. Friend, okay, or enemy. I actually don't have enemies, which is great, but also weird at the same time. What his or her favorite color? Why would you ask your enemy what their favorite color is? Then go back to the quiz, discover something new about this person? If my enemy's favorite color is purple or pink, like I got, that's not gonna tell me anything. Cover your school books with your favorite color paper. Let it be your signature. I guess in some ways growing up, I wasn't that poor, I suppose. Granted, I think it was just the fact of, like, you know, the village raising a child kind of mentality with my family. Like, I had a lot of family members that would, you know, go out of their way for myself and my siblings and stuff like that. So like when school would come, when the new school year would come around, we'd have to go get supplies and stuff like that. Um, you know, my mom would have money, but then on top of that, you know, my grandmothers and you know my aunts and stuff like that, and even my uncle, I think at times, um, they would get in on it and like they'd help buy like school clothes and you know supplies like school books and stuff like that, or like notebooks, and calculators and stuff. Like, they really wanted the best for us in a sense, which I think is great, and I love that mentality because I guess this is what the idea that I'm alluding to is a sense of I don't think I actually ever had school books covered in like the paper bag kind of thing. Um though it probably would have been more fun for me because then I could have doodled on it and made it more personal. Um I actually typically had like the book sleeves that you wrapped around the book, those like the fabric ones and stuff like that. And I remember somebody who does a lot of like YouTube shorts based around like the 90s and the 2000s stuff like that. They were talking about that particular topic, and you know, it was just they were like doing like a skit where they were a girl that like, you know, they had their like customized like paper bag, book sleeve and everything like that, and they were so proud of it. And then like they're like when the rich girl comes in and she's got like all of her books covered in like the book sleeves and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily I'm like it does kind of feel like there was that mentality in school. I vaguely remember that it was like, oh, the kids that wrapped their books in paper bags, they were super poor. But it's funny because it's like, I guess being an adult, it's like I see the benefit in having them. One, because they're reusable, they're machine washable as well. They're really easy to just reuse year to year, so you're not having to, you know, constantly have to remake a book sleeve. Granted, I guess some families kind of saw it as like it was a stupid purchase because I mean they were probably about like $1.50 or so for like each book sleeve. They weren't that much money, but you know, when you have to buy like 10 of them because you have like 10 different classes, it's like I guess that it does add up. And it's like, you know, when you're like, well, my kid, I'm like, I just have paper bags, like, you know, grocery bags that my kid can use to cover their books, and that's free, versus me having to spend like $15. Well, I'm gonna go and give them paper bags. It's like I see the argument now as an adult, but I just find it funny that in school that was the mentality that like you weren't cool if you didn't have the book sleeve for your books. But anyways, done with that rant. Let's go back to the results and let's do the quiz again. What is black? The sorceress! That actually makes a lot of sense. You are deeply intrigued by the unknown. You may be psychic or have other unusual powers. You only come out at night. I am intrigued by the unknown. I don't know if I would technically call myself psychic or that I have unusual powers. I would like to think so, but I'm not gonna be that egotistical and say that I do or have those. I do kind of only come out at night. I am much more active during the night than I am during the day. And it's because like that's kind of like for me, my brain, that's when it has the most energy is at night. So like right now at 2 o'clock in the morning, I have loads of energy at the moment. But yeah, so let's see what white is now. I was gonna say white apparently has nothing. Truth seeker. You have a pure and innocent heart. You are a spiritual person with a real thirst for the truth. That is very true. I actually do have a thirst to be able to like find the truth in things. Like that's why I really love mystery games. Because of the fact of it taps into that critical thinking, that problem solving skill that I love in a sense, like puzzles and strategy. So I'm constantly like looking for new like mystery games that I can play or like detective law games I can play. But yeah, I would say purple, black, and white, excuse me, have so far been very, very close to my actual personality.
Meet Lisa. She's in 8th grade and she's totally depressed. Her so-called friends are always forgetting to call her, huddling together at school without her, leaving her out of things. There are other girls at school who like Lisa a lot, but she's not as interested in them. She's hung up on these girls who are blowing her off. Has something like this ever happened to you? Have you ever been involved with bossy girlfriends, snobby cliques, or a not very nice boyfriend? Have you ever wondered why? Sometimes the answer lies in the past, a relationship or situation in a person's childhood, even though you think it no longer affects you. Well, you never know. Take Lisa. Both her parents work. The way she remembers it, she was in daycare from birth. Of course now, she's as busy as they are, so it doesn't really matter. But not getting enough attention when she was very young has left her with a negative pattern. She's hung up on getting access to inaccessible people. The purpose of this quiz is to help you see if there are any patterns like that in your life. If there are, we have some ideas on how to get rid of them. Choose the 3 people who influenced you the most in your childhood by rolling over the windows of the house. Next, you choose up to 3 of the less than flattering qualities for each person. Don't feel guilty, this is just an exercise. Even the people who love us the most have their shortcomings, and nobody but you ever has to see this.
Sorry, Mom and Dad. You're on the chopping block. I knew it. It's all my parents' fault. Grandmother. These are windows. Siblings. Grandfather. Aunt. Uncle. Mom. Dad. Well, sorry, Mom and Dad. You're on the chopping block. Oh, this is horrible. Yes, let me just point out what my parents... Let me point out both of my parents' shortcomings. Why isn't narcissistic on this list? That's a big thing that I have... And I'm not necessarily saying it, like, just for my dad in general, but I'm just saying it for just people in general, because that's something that, like, people run into a lot, actually. Like, in relationships and friends and stuff like that. Like, people run into narcissistic people, like, all the time. And they don't really realize it in some ways because of the fact of how narcissistic people manipulate. Crap. Okay, so I'm not going to skip the results, but I'm going to skip what I pick for people in a sense, or who I pick in a sense, so I'm going to actually say different person. Because of the fact of, I do love my parents, and, as much as I know that they have shortcomings, and I have shortcomings, it's not very nice to put that out there for the rest of the world to say, hey, my dad didn't love me enough, and that's why I have daddy issues, or something like that. That's called, airing out your dirty laundry, which I've been told and taught throughout my entire life that that's not something that you do. That is something that gets dealt with internally. You know, that's not something you bring out to the rest of the world. In this instance, in this situation. So I'm gonna do this for myself, and again, just kind of not show it in the video. But I wanted to pull up one of them so that you could see the list of what I have to pick from, I guess. So yeah, I will be back when I have the results. If they're not too direct. Hopefully.
Now you're ready to choose 3 people you hang with today, and see if any of them share some of the same less than great traits.
Oh good, now my friends are on the chopping block. Enemy? Best friend? Sibling? Another enemy? Friend? Other? Sibling? I don't have that many people that I hang out with, so I guess it's just... Sorry, Ethan and Abby, guess you're next. Even though I'm the firstborn, which means I would have screwed you up. You're now on my chopping block. Which is funny because I'm like, like a lot of these, like obviously my brother, my sister, really my brothers and my sister have, like, obviously their shortcomings, and I'm sure that some of these they would probably, like Bossy, I know that they probably would have picked Bossy for me. And Nagging. Probably Nagging and Bossy are the two that I know that they probably would have picked for me. But I feel like there's other shortcomings that they wouldn't, that are not on this list that they would have picked. Such as the fact of, like, okay, also being a know-it-all. I feel like they might also pick that one. But there's other stuff on there, like the idea of, like, just pointing out my own shortcomings, in a sense, what I think other people would point out, in a sense. Like, me being way too cautious. I think that might be something that they, point out there. I'm trying to think of, like, what is something that maybe like, a side of myself that I've shown to them that they may have not liked, in a sense. And other than being really cautious, as well as being nagging, bossy, and know-it-all, those are the only ones I can think of. I guess it kind of feels like a lot of the stuff is also very niche in the things that they would not like about me, in a sense. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to show the results of this. Or I'm not, like, I'm going to show the results of this. This is not too direct, but I'm not going to show what I pick for people or who I pick necessarily, because of the fact of that's not cool. So yeah, let me see if I can pick somebody else. Who else was there? Okay. So here's the results, I guess. I don't think this quiz is very accurate, of course. Excuse me, but I do like what they're going for. I like the fact of what they're trying to tell you is that, past traumas, regardless of how small you or someone else may see them, they are still traumas. They still affect you in some way or another. Now, that doesn't mean that they necessarily affect you the same way that they affect somebody else, but this kind of gives you an idea. What I love about this is I legit didn't know what to pick for. This is from the people that I hang out with today. I think. Or maybe like stuff that crossed over. And it's like you have people in your life who are too sarcastic and critical. And when I was looking at critical, I was thinking like also like judgmental, I guess, because I will say that is a flaw, I suppose, I do see with some of my family, is that we can be very judgy. I think we're very good about finding that balance at times, but there are instances where I've seen some of my family get really judgy about something, and then like, I'm coming out with like, well, what about this situation? And they're like, no excuses. No excuses. And I'm like, but that's a legit thing that does happen. Let's see, what can I do about these too sarcastic and critical people? You can become the kind of person who surrounds herself with warm, loving people. Sorry, family, you're not warm and loving. Get the frick out of here. Which is funny, because I'm like, even though some of the people in my life can be a little sarcastic and critical, I'm like, those same people are very warm and loving people, especially to me. So it's like, I'm getting some mixed signals here. Do I dox them out of my life? Or do I accept them in my life? I'm getting some mixed signals. Um, this actually does kind of hit a little bit closer to home for me. You can become the kind of person who does her best and knows it is good enough. This idea of being good enough is something I feel like I have struggled with quite a bit. Um, Something personal to me, and obviously I won't name names, I won't say who or when or what, but growing up there were instances with people that I knew and cared for, um where there was favoritism, and I was very clearly not the favorite. And I've known for a long time that that has caused the trauma of not feeling good enough growing up, because of the fact of, because I wasn't somebody's favorite. It made me feel as though that I wasn't good enough as a person, that I wasn't doing the things that I should have. And so it constantly made me struggle with this idea of feeling good enough. Now, being older and recognizing that trauma in a sense, obviously it's like it does still come up at times. Of course it does. It's a trauma. It's very hard to make it go away, and you know, it's kind of like the idea of what I call having mental diversities. I don't like calling them mental illnesses because obviously, one, when you're ill, there's a cure for it, but it's like, if you're clinically depressed or you have clinical anxiety, there's no cure for it. There are coping mechanisms so that you can cope with it and live a fairly normal life, like typical neurotypical people. But when you're neurodivergent, in a sense, when you have, mental diversities, those don't go away. Those are a part of who you are. Those are what make up your brain, in a sense. That is, like, it's how your brain is wired, and that's how it was made. You can't rewire that brain, in a sense. So it's like, there's not a cure for it. But then on top of that, and I know a lot of people understand what I mean by this, but I guess I reiterate the fact again to say this, where it's like, there's another reason why I don't like seeing it as mental illness, because people think that, like, if they have a mental illness, there's something wrong with them. They're broken. They're not good enough. And it's like, no, that's not it. You have a mental diversity. You just have something that makes you different and special from other people. It's not a bad thing. And it's like, I understand the idea of, it's just a lonely experience being different. And I've had that too, even though I thrive in the idea of being different from other people and not being one in a million. It is a very lonely experience at times to be like, nobody understands me. But I find more thrills in the idea of being different and being unique than from being the same as everyone else, because the fact of, I feel as though that from my uniqueness, I can offer something to somebody else. I can offer them something that they don't already have. So that's kind of how I look at my mental diversities, in a sense, is that I can offer them things that they don't already have, such as like a different perspective on the world, um, a different way of looking at a problem or a situation, as well as the fact of, you know, a different way of meeting people, I suppose, and offering them a different type of person to meet. Someone that's not the same as everybody else, somebody that's new and interesting and fresh, I suppose. So that's how I look at it. And yes, I feel I feel like some people may look at me and be like, oh my god, like, you have so much confidence. And I'm like, this is not something that just I had. I worked at it. It took a long time, and it's, again, to give people that reassurance, to let them know, like, you know, this type of life isn't impossible. This mentality isn't impossible. It takes time, it takes work, it takes perseverance and determination, but you can get there. And the more you work at it, the easier it does become. So the idea of, my anxiety, as well as, my autism on top of that, life became easier the more I learned about it, because then I could see where my triggers were, where the things I would get overwhelmed with were. And it helped me kind of navigate life a little bit better, because I could tell where those limits were, where those boundaries were, and then I could come up with appropriate coping mechanisms for them. As well as the fact of, when people looked at me like I was a freak or something like that, I could give them an explanation and been like, no, it's my anxiety. I'm having an anxiety attack. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to be weird. I'm just having an anxiety. I'm just anxious because of this. And then, like, it kind of softened the blow, and people are like, oh, I get that completely. Yeah, no, let me help you with that. Instead of people just being like, wow, you're weird, like, get away. But yeah, so that's great. I just persecuted, basically, friends and family. Glad they'll never see this. Haha.
Good communication skills are better than candy.
Yes.
They bring you knowledge, happiness, and power. For each statement, use the slider to rate yourself between no way and totally. Totally means the statement is really you.
Got it. I say what's on my mind. I would put myself here, one below totally. I'm very opinionated. I feel like, again, that kind of shows my videos. I'm not afraid to say things to people. I'm not afraid to tell them that I don't like something. Or that something's making me uncomfortable. I can say it in such a way where it's more polite, and that it's more socially acceptable. But it's also the thing of, I'm not afraid to speak up when somebody tries to challenge me either. I don't back down, in a sense. Like, I choose my battles. I will say I'm mature and I choose my battles, but when I choose to fight in a battle, it's like, no, I'm not backing down. You've started this war, and now I'm gonna win it. But I'd probably put myself here. I pick and choose my battles, I pick and choose what I want to say and what I feel like is meaningful to say, but I'm also not afraid to say what's on my mind. I tell the truth. I would say, to the best of my abilities, I try to tell the truth. But I think, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of here as well, because it's like, I don't want to say, like, I lie to people, but I'm also the type of person that if someone tells me that I cannot say something, or that something is a secret, even if it's something minor, like, my mom in a way praised me, but in a way slightly teased me about it. So when I was a kid, and she was like, Michaela was great with secrets. She would be like, her best friend could tell her a secret about a boy that they like, and just in conversation, like, I'm just making light conversation, I'll ask her, like, oh, like, does, so-and-so like anybody? And she would legit be like, Fort Knox, and she'd be like, I can't tell you that. I can't. And I would. If somebody told me I could not tell somebody something, or that something was a secret, it was a secret. I was gonna die with that secret. Until they told me that it was okay to tell somebody. Just because, I guess for me, like, telling the truth obviously is a part of trust, but also keeping one's secrets is a big form of trust as well. when you tell other people secrets, it really like disrupts that trust between somebody, and sometimes it can be really hard to get back. So I would say that I do tell the truth, but I don't have a problem keeping secrets as well. I do what I say I'm going to do. I mean, I try. I try really hard. Sometimes the universe has a different plan for me though. But I'll say that when I say I'm going to do something, I commit to it. So, yes. I'm not afraid to ask for what I want. No, no, I still kind of am at times. Um, I'd probably put it midway in a sense, because there's times when I want to ask for something, but I don't know how to ask it in a sense, so I just kind of sit there awkwardly, and then people are like, did you need something? Like, you're just sitting there staring at me. I'm like, no, no, it's fine. I didn't need anything. And I just awkwardly walk back downstairs to my room. So I'd say I'm probably here. I love email and have lots of pen pals. As a form of communication, I actually really do like emails. But I actually don't have a lot of pen pals or people to text and stuff like that. So I think I'm closer to here. I will say this is something that I'm like absolutely about. I can admit when I'm wrong. I will take responsibility for when I make a mistake or for when I do something wrong. But I will always try to follow it up with either how I can make it better or ask how I can make it better. Um, you know, and try in a sense. Cause I will say that, again, this is something that does get easier with time. It was hard at first to admit when I was wrong because I feared the punishments and the consequences that came with it. But it took many years for me to realize that there were more punishments and more consequences for lying and, for not taking responsibility. It's kind of a thing of like in a lot of situations, I guess for me, I didn't necessarily see it. It was me like experiencing it through other people in a sense, like hearing them or seeing their reaction to things and then seeing how people reacted to them when they didn't take responsibility. And I've learned over the years that when you take responsibility and you own up to what you've done, there's a lot more respect there from other people towards you. Yes, you may make a few mistakes and they might be big mistakes, but at least if you admit that you're wrong, they know that they can at least trust you to tell the truth and to be able to say like, okay, this was a mistake, let's fix it. It can be frustrating, but it's better to say the truth and to admit that when you're wrong and take responsibility for it than it is to try and hide it. So, I would say I'm there. I can easily put my feelings into words. Yes and no. Again, I've gotten better with it as time has gone on, but there's times when I have a hard time. There's times when I can't put my feelings into words. And the only way that I can put them into words is almost to like relate it to a past experience or to a relatable experience in a sense. Like if I'm talking to my friend Patrick and I'm trying to explain to him how I feel about a situation, it'll be like, oh, it's like this moment of, when you do this thing and, people are laughing, you're like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed, something like that. It's like eventually I think I find the words, but it's through that he's like, yes, I totally get that what you mean. Oh my god, that's horrible. So I think it's kind of like there. I think it's fun to give presentations in class. I actually, surprisingly, never had a problem with public speaking. For some reason, I never had a problem. Like, I never got nervous with talking in front of a class. I actually typically always wanted to go first because I was kind of excited actually to share what I had learned. I'm not saying that I was the best public speaker. There were definitely times where I flopped and I embarrassed myself in front of people. But even still, it didn't deter me from wanting to present things to like my class, something like that, or present things to people. So, I would say yeah. I think because on top of that, that was like the one time I could be really creative and actually show off certain things about my presentation skills. So I also really like that. I enjoy writing. I actually do really enjoy writing. Um, I don't do it as much now necessarily, but it's kind of more like, again, my art style has matured into a different form. So like I don't draw as much now and I don't write as many stories as I did, but I channel a lot of that through either, you know, the like when I edit videos, or I channel it through the website that I'm making, as well as the fact of like when I'm doing like small game ideas, that kind of stuff. That's where I channel it now. So I do still enjoy writing. I just don't do it as often now. If a group of us gets in trouble, I do the talking. Uh not really. I am a confident person. No. Again, it's like I feel like as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more confidence. I feel like I'm kind of more a humble person as I've gotten older. I'm more self-confident than just confident in general. I'm confident with who I am and the things that I do and the things that I like and dislike. But when it comes to confidence in general, I don't have it necessarily. I've written fan letters to celebrities I admire. Not really. I remember when I was younger, I think I did it a couple times. Like, they never got sent out, but, you know, I was a kid. It was just my imagination, just, you know, it was just my imagination just running wild. But even, like, as a teenager or as an adult, I haven't really written fan letters to people. So it's kind of more like, kind of, but not really. I have a clear speaking voice. Kind of. I kind of have a clear speaking voice. Uh, it's clear enough to where I know 90% of the YouTube translation system can pick up like 90% of the words, but there's still a 10% where I notice that it doesn't pick it up. And I should make a point to go back through and do the captions and stuff like that and redo them, so that way like it is more clear. And for those people that have like an auditory problem, you know, they have an easier time with the captions and they're not reading what is essentially a, you know, speech to text message. So I'd say, oh, kind of. I don't let others control my responses. I don't really know how to. I mean, I would say that I don't let others control my responses, but at the same time, not many people have tried to control my responses. They've given me the freedom to respond how I feel is appropriate. Actually, I think I'd probably go here because I guess the thing is that I'm still. I think part of that coping mechanism too is knowing when and how to allow yourself to respond to things. And even I can still get wrapped up in the idea of, you know, the fear and the backlash of feeling like, oh my god, if I have a breakdown right here, people are gonna look at me weird and they're not gonna like me or something like that. So I think it's kind of somewhere in the middle. I use correct grammar. When I'm writing, yes, I am like a grammar stickler. I have told my friends many, many times. So, like, I'm like, if you want me to edit any of your work, like go through it and edit it and check it for stuff, peer review it, um, I will do that. As well as the fact if it, like, people have asked me multiple times if I will help them with their resume and stuff like that. And I always tell them basically the same thing where I'm like, that's totally fine, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to absolutely destroy your work. I am going to point out every little mistake. So if you can't handle that, probably not the person you want to be asking. Obviously, I'm very fair with how I correct things, but I am definitely one of those people that's like, if you use the wrong to or the wrong your, I am going to point out, if it's throughout the entire piece of work, I am going to point out every single one with a correction next to it so that you get the hint you are using the wrong your in this context. So, but again, it's like obviously when I'm speaking, obviously I slip up a lot. So I would say, speaking wise, it's an 80% chance usually I'm using correct grammar. 20% it's just kind of verbal diarrhea. But writing wise, I'm typically very good at using correct grammar. That's a much higher percentage. It's more like a 95. I know or plan to learn a foreign language. Not really. Don't get me wrong, I love the idea of foreign languages and learning it. Um, and to those that are, bilingual or, multilingual in a sense, and they can fluently speak multiple different languages, I mean, honestly, hats off to you. That is a fantastic skill to have. That is a very desirable skill to have, especially here in America. Um, but for me personally, I don't, not to say that I don't see the benefit in it, because I absolutely do. I just personally don't have the ambition to learn another foreign language. I'm like, I have a hard enough time learning not only the spoken language that I'm trying to speak currently, but I have a hard enough time trying to speak the coding languages that constantly change every 5 years. I don't really want to add another foreign language on there to confuse myself. Um, I obviously do know a little bit of other languages, but it's not enough to get me by. Like, if somebody were to plop me down in that country and say, survive, I would die. I'd be homeless, and I'd be in a box. And I'd be praying that somebody knew English and they could speak to me. I could talk on the phone all day and all night. Probably. It's again one of those things like it depends on the person, but actually I'd probably go down this way because I'm an introvert who's learning to be an ambivert in a sense. So at my core, I do like socializing with people and I like hanging out with, my friends and my family and stuff like that. But I do get to that point where I'm like, I just need me time and I just need to be left alone and left to be, like, recharge. So it's like, as much as I love talking on the phone with my friends and stuff like that, and it's easier to have a conversation that way because it's faster and it's more natural, there are definitely days where I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. It's not that I don't love you. It's just I need a break. I've been talking to people for like the last 3 days. I haven't even had time to think about my own thoughts in my head. So I would say that I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I like talking on the phone, but it's not something I'd want to do every single day of my life. I am a good listener. I would say I'm probably somewhere in the middle, kind of. Like, I think I'm a good listener, but obviously I still think that I can improve on that skill. Um, because one skill that I do need to learn and I need to implement more is the fact of, so I am a good listener, but I do constantly kind of get trapped in that idea of um I'm a helper, and so therefore I want to help people when they tell me that they have a problem, but half the times they don't want help with the problem, they just want somebody to listen to it. So I need to try to get into that mindset of, before someone tells me what their problem is, asking them and being like, so what will help you with this situation? Do you want me to just listen to it and be, proactive with listening? Or do you want me to list off ideas that will help you, help you problem solve this? Like, what would be best for you? And respecting that person's wishes so that, one, it builds a better connection with me and that person, but they do feel like they're being heard. So I feel like for me it's not a lot, but I enjoy making people laugh. I do enjoy making people laugh, actually. That is definitely something I do. I have a good vocabulary. I think I have a pretty good vocabulary. I don't use a lot of complex words like all the time, but I do have a very extensive vernacular, so I would say it's up there. I laugh a lot. Again, it's like, it's not all the time, but I do find reasons to laugh a lot. I do go with the mentality of laughter is the best medicine. Um, and that's why for me, I try to find ways to stay happy all the time, even in those days where I feel really down and depressed. I try to find hope, because the fact of, I know that usually what keeps people going is hope and happiness. Their health and their well-being declines rapidly when they're upset and when they're unhappy and stuff like that. So I try to make, I don't necessarily believe with the idea of some people when they say like happiness is a choice, because there are people that suffer with massive depression and it's not a choice for them. But I guess rewording it to an extent, it's the journey to find happiness is a choice. The desire to want happiness is a choice, I suppose. Because obviously, like, even when I'm feeling really depressed, my ultimate goal is obviously to be happy again. And I make that choice consciously to say, I want to be happy again. And not wallow around in self-pity or my depression or something like that. Or, if I notice that, like, oh, I've been feeling depressed a lot these last couple days, I don't just sit there and just been like, well, I guess I'm depressed. I actively go out and try to find out why I'm depressed so that I can be happy again. So I guess in some ways, that's how I reword that saying, because I've heard that a lot, and it actually like, I would hear the lot from other people, and it actually would make me really upset, because, like, it was frustrating, because obviously there were times where I'm like, I'm trying to be happy, but I'm not happy. I'm making the choice, but I'm not happy. So I think it's like, it needed to be reworded in such a way to say that, it's not necessarily the choice of being happy. That's not the choice. It's the choice of searching for happiness. Ensuring your happiness, I suppose. Whether that has to be through medication or a change of lifestyle, a change of job, change of people in your life. That's the choice part, in a sense. But I would say, like, I go out of my way. I can be honest with my parents. Yeah. uh, trying to remember what it was. My mom didn't, like, she had used the last bit of toilet paper and I had to go to the bathroom and I was getting ready to sit down. I think I remember I called her a degenerate for not replacing the toilet paper that was sitting right next to the toilet. She then promptly came back with me and said, well, you don't do dishes. And I was like, fair point. I've written letters to the editor of the newspaper or magazine. Nope, never done that actually. Writing in a diary makes me feel better. It's not writing in a diary so much, it's just writing in general. For me, is therapeutic. It gets my ideas out for one, so that they're not just clogging my head. But it's also another form of that, like, rubber duck method in a sense, where writing out the idea kind of slows your brain down to process the idea that you're thinking about. But it then also makes you think about, again, every little detail that you're writing about. It also kind of makes you realize certain things, like certain thought processes or certain ideas that you didn't think about before, or certain details. So I'd say, for the most part, I can talk to boys. Yeah, I have to talk to boys all the time. I am the only female on my team. I have to learn how to talk to boys. This was actually kind of a long quiz, to be honest, too. You have above average powers of self-expression, and it pays off. People understand you and like you. Your openness keeps you happy and sane. Thanks. That quiz took a long time, so I'm actually just going to snap a picture of that right now. Yeah, because oh my goodness. That took so long. What is in the try this category? Check your listening skills. Count how many times in one day you interrupt people while they are talking. Do this with a friend and help each other through the day. So we actually do, me and my friend Patrick, we actually do have friends from Russia that go to some of the local schools around us. And it was actually really funny because I was actually explaining them this idea that, because I think I did kind of interrupt them a couple times, and I was like, so sorry. When it was my turn to speak, I had told them, I was like, it's funny because in like New England and the North and stuff like that is actually kind of a common thing that you find with people is, everything is just so fast paced, it's like you don't have time to like slow down and do something. So people are constantly talking, and it's like there's not like a time where like you like slow down in a sense or allow somebody to talk. So it's like it's kind of like traffic in Boston. You just kind of go out into traffic where you see an opening. Even if the opening is like only a few feet, you still take it. And that's kind of how it is when we talk. We talk really fast. We interrupt each other a lot, and that's just normal. And we're moving through topics like it's nobody's business. Whereas, like, when you go down south, the speech is a little bit slower. And, people kind of stay on the same topic for a while. And so it's just kind of funny because that's kind of one thing I had noticed about that was I was like, up here in the north, we do, talk over people quite a bit, and it's normal for us. I don't know why, it just is. Diary, think about the statements you rated. Not at all. In your diary, write down 2 things you can do to improve. Practice each day for the next few weeks, then take the quiz again. I think I rated not at all on only one thing, and it was the letter to the editor thing, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not looking to improve that. I'm good. I'm good with my above average skills. If you've never had a pen pal, you should try it. There's an exhilarating freedom in sharing your thoughts with someone you haven't met in person. Come look for new friends on our website with your same interests. I'm not gonna go to their website right now, but maybe in the future. Um, Maybe I'll try and look for it on the Wayback Machine. Um, I remember in elementary school we did do pen pals. I do remember this doing pen pals, but I guess for me it's like I didn't see the exhilaration in it. It was nice, but it wasn't for me, I suppose. That's not to say that I wouldn't be interested in meeting new people. I am. It's just when I was a kid I didn't really care for it because I was like, I don't even know this person. Why am I writing letters to them? I needed that connection to be able to say, like, there was a reason for why I was writing this letter, because I wanted to learn more about them. When I was a kid, I was writing somebody because I was forced to, not because I wanted to. So for chat, list the people you feel you can talk to and the things you'd want to talk to them about. You know, the stuff you're nervous to bring up. Now pick one person and one subject and do it. I'd pick Patrick, but it's funny because I'm like, I don't think there's a topic we've ever talked about that has ever made me nervous. I can't think of one, and I feel like I have an eyelash stuck in my eye. But yeah, I don't think I was gonna say Patrick is the one I share all my dark jokes with. So it's like nothing's off limits. Granted, we're also those friends that obviously we recognize that being good friends means being honest with each other, even if it may hurt each other's feelings in a sense. But we do it with the intention of, we're doing it because, we love that person and we want the best for them. So I guess it's kind of like we have that understanding, we have that, like, friendship that it's like, we can have those tough topics with each other and we're not going to be angry at each other for it. Like, we'll admit, we'll be like, I hate that you said that, but I hate it because it's true. I hate that you're right. But it's like, we're just kind of so accepting of each other that it's like, there's not really a topic I feel like I'd be nervous about bringing up with Patrick. I feel like I've talked about every topic with Patrick that would have made people nervous. Yeah, so don't need to do that. Use the statements above, especially the ones you score low on, to create affirmations for yourself. You don't need to send letters to celebrities to feel loved. That feels like that does the trick. Get out. Say hello to one new person each day. You may think you'll feel goofy until you see how positively people react. This is actually an everyday thing in my town. This was again another thing that, when we were taking our Russian friends out on the town, basically. So, I remember saying to them that people in my area were just very friendly people. So, you pass people on the street all the time, and, as you pass them, you make eye contact, and you say, hi, how are you? And, they respond politely the same way, and they're like, oh, good, how about you? And I'm like, good, have a nice walk. And, you go on about your day. You don't know the people. You don't know them from John kind of idea. You're just saying hello. It's just polite. And it's funny because I never thought this was weird until I ran into other people from outside of my area. And they were like, I don't say hello to people that pass by. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird, I guess. I'm like, where I grew up is like, that was really normal. And I guess it was because obviously it was, it's like I come from a small town, so even though I don't know everybody in my town, it's like the families that have grown up in that town, they've been there for generations. So you do have kind of like that small town community feel where it was like, somebody's grandmother knows somebody's aunt in a sense, and you know, so they hear the last name of that person, like, oh, is that Betty's sister? Like, oh, we used to work down at the commissary together. And everybody has stories about everybody. Every person, like every building and every place has a story that somebody in the family knows. So it's kind of like that's the environment I've grown up in. So this is an everyday thing for me. Just saying hello to random people on the street. But yeah, so the video, yes, is going on. Again, there's a lot of quizzes. And I'm happy about this. I am definitely happy about this. But the quizzes do take quite a long time. So I'm gonna go to whatever number 7 is, and then I think that'll be the last thing for this video. Parents from Mars. Oh, good.
Yes, they are aliens. Though you've done everything you can to teach them the ways of planet Earth, these parental units are apparently ruled by some clueless overlord from outer space. Or perhaps they return to their home planet when you're asleep and trade ideas on how to drive their kids nuts. To assess the severity of your ancient relative's total weirdness, complete the following questionnaire. And do not despair. We have some remedial activities that even the most severely lame parent can benefit from. Mark each of the following statements true or false.
I'm gonna be completely honest. If anybody was the alien in my family, it was me. My parents looked at me and thought I was lame, and they were right. I was the weirdo. So I feel like for me, like, terminally serious. No. Senile. Knows little, remembers less. Um. Senility, senileness runs in the family, apparently. I will say my mom, I don't think my mom's senile, but I guess when it comes to what these guys are referring to, my mom does have trouble remembering things, but I know why she has trouble remembering things, and it's because of the fact that she's so stressed out all the time. And I get that because I've been there before. My dad, on the other hand, is starting to not remember crap, but I think that's because of his aphasia, really. So I guess true. Fun deprived. A big time is like watching the 5 o'clock news. No. I was the weirdo. Self-absorbed? Oh no, my parents were not self-absorbed. Not at all. Has the attention span of a fly. With certain things, I could say that was true. I don't think my mom's ever gonna see this video, but if she does, granted, it's totally okay, cause my brother and sister have already outed themselves on crap that they used to pull to trick my mom to get me in trouble. So now I'm outing stuff about us. So I will say yes, my mom. I guess the whole thing about my mom forgetting things quite easily was true even as a kid. Because my mom did try the whole trick where she would try to limit technology for us, and she would do like, based on how many chores you did, you earned like a currency, like a fake currency that you could spend um to have time with that technology so that we were tempted more. The big thing, obviously, like I said before in some other videos, was the fact of I was always on the computer and my mom sometimes needed it, but she could never find a time to be on it because I was always on it. So yeah, there were definitely times where she would try a system, and I cannot lie, I would literally think in my head, been like, I'm playing along with this for 2 weeks. And I think I'd even tell my brother Ethan at the time, because he was the only one that was born at the time. And I've been like, give it 2 weeks and she'll forget and we'll be back to what we were doing. 2 weeks later, she had forgotten completely about the system, and I'm back to 8 hours on the computer playing Barbie games. But yeah. Attention span of a fly, though, no, I wouldn't say that. Has photographic memory for my every failure. No, I don't think so. If she did, she never told me. Same thing with my dad. So no. Would secretly like to dress me for school. Yes. That was absolutely my mom. When we had I have so many hairs. When we had 80s day for high school. Now, granted, I did actually ask my mom, but I was just like, hey, mom, so obviously you went to school in the 80s. So you knew what the big trends were back then? Been like, can you help me out? And I mean, her eyes lit up. She got so excited. I wish I could find a picture of what my outfit looked like, because I feel like a lot of people from the 80s and like a lot of parents would be like, oh my god, yes. Like, they would have been so proud of the work that my mom did on me. I think I actually remember getting quite a few compliments actually from people, like that I really fit the theme and that I looked really good. So, but yeah, my mom, I have no fashion sense pretty much. This is the best I can do pretty much. I don't even wear makeup. So when I do anything like dressing up or makeup and stuff like that, my mom is totally there. She's like, "Oh, let me help." And I'm like, "Okay." No. My parents definitely have a life outside of me. Spits on his or her finger to remove dirt from my face. I think my mom did this actually, but it was kind of funny because I do remember my childhood best friend and we were talking about this, and she was making a joke about this, and she was right. She was like, she's like, Mom's spit could freaking take off paint from a car. She's like, you have that one smudge of dirt right here. Soap and water isn't enough. Acid, not enough. Mom's spit gets it off in one swipe. And I was like, oh my god, you're right. And I think my mom probably did that a couple times. Has never uttered a positive word, phrase, or sentence. That is completely false. I will say that my dad, I don't think, was really, as obviously as dads go. I was gonna say, my dad was kind of on par with other dads where it's like, there wasn't a lot of that encouragement, I guess, but there also wasn't any negative encouragement. It was just an absence of words, period. My mom, on the other hand, obviously was more of the positive reinforcement in the sense where, she was the one that, would give the positive re-encouragement and stuff like that and, tell us how good we were at something. So, I'd probably say false ones. Thinks communication means I listen respectfully to his or her 2-hour speeches. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Yes. Is transformed into a hideous monster when angry. My brother, sister, and I, we have this joke going that when my mom gets really angry, and I mean, we tease my mom too. She knows we tease her about this, and she knows that we call her this too. But when my mom would get really angry and stuff like that, we'll be like running around the house to our siblings and be like, fire breathing dragon lady mode is activated. Get away from her. Has given up on me. Oh my god. No, my parents have not given up on me. Has not changed hairstyle. No, my mom and my dad have definitely changed their hairstyles. I will say I am very lucky because I actually did come from 2 very attractive people. And they've stayed fairly attractive. Okay, well, I shouldn't say fairly. They have stayed attractive pretty much their whole life. So, even to this day, I hear how attractive my parents are. And I'm lucky in a sense that, thankfully, when their genes mixed into mine, that, you know, I didn't get the whole situation where it's like the positive and the positive turn into the negative. The positive and the math actually mathed, and the positive actually turned into a positive. So, no, my mother, I'm the one that hasn't changed my hairstyle since the Stone Age. I have kept this hairstyle probably since I was really young and like in elementary school. Again, because I don't care that much. But on top of that, I always find it funny when people make fun of my hair because I'm like, you know, this hairstyle has been in style in almost every single decade going, pretty much. Like, this is not like a fad or something like that, or a retro hairstyle. It's like, this hairstyle that I have has been around for a while. Like, it's not fading out anytime soon, I'm pretty sure. Wants to live my life as well as his or her own. No, I would say that my parents have pretty good boundaries on that, in which they recognize that obviously my life is my life and their life is their life. I guess now because of the fact that I'm older, but even still, when I was younger, and this is something that I really like about my parents, and the things that I really honor about my parents is the fact of they allowed me the freedom to kind of have control of my own life for the most part. I wasn't told that I was going to join a club, or I wasn't told I was going to do things. You know, I was suggested that it'd be a good idea, and they would try to talk me into certain things, but they would never force me to or try to coerce me into certain things. So, false. Provides no rules for the household. That depends on the household. My father's household, no. We had no rules. My mom's household, we had rules, and I loved it because there was predictability. My siblings didn't like it because they couldn't get away with crap. So I'm gonna say false. Provides insanely rigid rules for the household. Again, I didn't think that they were that rigid. Other people would have called my mom a helicopter parent. Even to this day, I don't see it. I don't think she was a helicopter parent. I think she had reasonable expectations for her kids in a sense. So, I would say no. Thinks email is a small little known country off of the coast of Italy. No. Noisy beyond belief. Reads my mail. Pries constantly. Nope. pathologically fails to remember my friends' names. No. Does things that make people notice us. No, typically not. Hangs around school too much. No, that's just creepy. That's not even just a parent thing. That's just I understand what they're talking about here, but I guess for me when I think about it, like just a parent that just hangs outside the school, that's just creepy. No. Never shows up at school. That's not true either. I was gonna say my parents showed up. Is a fashion victim, shoulder pads, jogging suits, you name it. Nope. That would have been more likely me. Makes ridiculous threats, never follows through. Yeah, kind of. I can kind of like the same thing with the system with the buying the time and chores and stuff like that. Yeah, that never fell through. Completely exaggerates most situations. I don't think they exaggerate a lot of situations. Doesn't let me know what's expected. Actually, that was the one thing that my parents were really good about, especially I use a lot of examples for my mom in a sense, and that's not to say that obviously I don't like my dad. It's like I love my father, but I will say growing up, so my dad worked nights a lot of times, so I didn't hang out with him as much as I did my mom growing up. But I will say that with my mom, one thing that I always respected about her, and one thing I always liked about how she raised me, and I think something that she knew very well about me was the fact of when I asked why about something, she knew I really wanted to know why. And she wouldn't do the whole thing like, because I said so. She would explain it to me. So like the whole idea, like when she told me like not to touch the stove, and I'd ask why. She explained it. She's like, it's because it's hot, you're gonna burn yourself, and if you burn yourself, we're gonna have to go to the hospital. And obviously, I didn't want to go to the hospital, because as a kid, doctors were scary. So, that was good enough reason for me not to touch the stove. But I feel like, even with my dad at times, he was pretty good about telling us what was expected. Yeah, I don't think I had necessarily had a problem about figuring out what was expected of me. Compares me to other people, plants, pets, life forms. No, I don't think my parents ever did that either. I don't remember my parents ever doing that to us. Listens to talk radio and enjoys it. No. My parents both love listening to music, and specifically country music, so that's where I got it. Never knocked for a Yes, kind of. Like, it's gotten better over the years, but yes, that was a thing that happened. Categorically drives 15 miles per hour under the speed limit. Nah, my parents are pretty good at that. Always confuses my name with my siblings when addressing me. Yes, but I will say that is just a common parent thing regardless. I do that to the cats all the time. And it's even worse too because I'm yelling at my mom's dog all the time too for stuff, for like getting in a trash or, needing her to come back inside for something. And so I'll go through every pet name before I actually get to the actual pet's name. The big joke is like, you're snapping your fingers at the person. You're like, Betty, Susie, Karen, you know who you are. You with the face, get over here. And I'm like, that's the big joke. It always ends with, you know who you are, get over here. And of course, every kid just sits there looking at their parent as they're pointing at them, trying to get to the correct name, and they're waiting for their name to get called. They're like, you know what, if my name hasn't been called, I'm technically not the one in trouble. But yes, my parents did do that a lot. Listens to totally outdated music and gag sing-alongs. I Honestly, I didn't think that. Every evening without fail asks me to summarize my day at school, does not understand why this gets on my nerves. Um, no, it didn't bother me that much. It didn't bother me, and I mean, they did ask about my day. But I guess typically they didn't need to ask because I typically was probably going to tell them anyways. Ridiculous expectations seems to think I am the offspring of Albert Einstein and God. No. When I was growing up, again, another expectation that my mom made very clear for us. It was a thing of, my mom made the expectation of she wanted us to try our best. She understood that there were topics that maybe we weren't going to do as great in as other kids, but as long as we tried our best, that's what she was looking for. Typically the rule was that we were not allowed to get below a C for classes she knew that we could do well in. If we wanted to do clubs or sports, something like that, even though for our school a C was still okay to be able to participate in those things, my mom told us, because like obviously my brother was big into baseball and I think even hockey. My sister, at the time, it was softball, but it was other, like, hanging out with friends and, horseback riding for her and stuff like that. But those extracurricular activities kind of idea, my mom had told us that if we didn't focus on our grades, she would take those things away. Now, of course, if she could see that, we were trying really hard, but we were still struggling and stuff like that, she would be lenient on it. But obviously, if we were just slacking off because we wanted to, she was going to get after us for that. I will say that's probably the one thing that she would have followed through for if that had happened. That didn't really happen with us. My brother and I were typically very good in school. There were subjects that we did struggle in, but we typically were able to bring it back. My sister was the one, she was the normal one in the family. She did okay in school, but she had a lot more friends and she cared a lot more about her social life. But she did try a lot in school, so I know that my mom didn't really get after her that much for grades as well. I mean, I think she did try to get her to be a little bit more proactive about her grades, but she could see that my sister was trying. She was trying her best. She just, wasn't picking it up as quickly. But yeah, so I don't think my parents ever had ridiculous expectations for us. If at first they don't succeed, nag again. I don't really see my parents nagging us. I think the only thing they really nagged us about were chores. And I think that's really the only thing that I can think of, so maybe I'd say true. But for the other parts, it was like, they didn't really nag us. So maybe true. Talks on the phone about me. I mean, yeah, I'm their kid, like, I'm kind of a big part of their life, like, it's kind of impossible not to talk about me. I kind of take up like 80% of their life. So of course they talk about me. Thinks I should wait till I'm in a nursing home to pierce my ears, shave my legs, dye my hair, and or wear makeup. No. My parents actually, when I was a baby, I think got my ears pierced. And the holes, closed up. When I was like 10 or 11, I actually got my ears pierced again. And again, they closed up. So I just decided from that point on, I just wasn't going to get my ears pierced again. I started shaving my legs because my dad started making fun of my legs. He started calling me spider legs. So yeah, when I was like in middle school, I started shaving that crap because my dad started making fun of me. Dyeing my hair actually was my mom's idea. My mom actually really loved this look on me. And so like at the start of the school year every year, I would get these blonde highlights in my hair. And it was actually really cute. I actually liked it. She asked me to just try it for the first year, like do like kind of like a temporary dye, and I liked it, so then I continued to go back, and then like at the start of the next school year she asked me like, "Oh, do you want to re-dye your hair and everything? Like you're like the highlights are kind of growing out." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then makeup, obviously, my parents didn't really. Obviously, if we were like had it caked on and we looked like we were working the streets, yeah, that was gonna be a no from my parents. But for the most part, it was like they didn't care if we wore makeup. So, no, my parents didn't care. Takes their problems out on me. I'm gonna say yes to this one, but in a more direct instance. And this, I guess this is one of those things where it's like, yes, this is a little bit of the airing out of the dirty laundry, but it's a sad fact of anybody that has been through their parents divorcing. I feel like a lot of kids can understand this in the sense of, and even parents, it's hard at times not to project your problems onto your kids, I suppose. It's like there's no excuse for doing it, but it's like one of those things where, like, stress is through the roof. You've got all these different things. You're like, oh my God, I could lose my kids. I could lose my house. I could lose these benefits that I now have to figure out what I have to do for myself. It's an entire change of lifestyle and everything for some people, and that's how it was for us. My mom was a stay-at-home mom during the time that my parents divorced. So when my parents got divorced, you know, my mom had to figure out what to do, not only to, be able to pay bills and keep the house, but to be able to feed and clothe us. So, oh, and then on top of that, she didn't have her license either. So that was another thing on top of everything else that she had to try to go for. I would say yes, they took their problems out on me, but it was more like they projected it because of what was going on at the time. Tries to act cool, like, let's be kind and leave it at that. I think jokingly my parents did, but they didn't actually try to be that way. Tell stories about me with me standing there. They did, and I encouraged it. Brags about me until I want to crawl under a rock. No. No, it was typically fairly balanced. Doesn't let me wear what I want. Kind of, I guess. But granted, what I wanted to wear was definitely not cool, so I went with my mother's instinct because it was probably a lot better for me, and I probably would, save myself a lot of heartache and not being made fun of. As well as the fact of when I was a kid, I think a lot of kids went through this, but you don't realize certain fashion items look way more mature than they probably should look on you, if you know what I mean. And I remember at the time, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, having things that were animal printed was kind of a little risque, I guess. And I remember I loved animal print, and I think it was because of the fact of I saw the Diva Stars, and the Diva Stars had a bunch of stuff that were animal print. I thought, oh, I love Diva Stars, and Diva Stars is cool, and they have animal print stuff, so that must be cool. And so, like, I wanted to wear animal print stuff, and my mom was like, no, you look like a hoochie. And I was like, why? What's a hoochie? But I would say yes, but for good reasons. Compares me to when he or she was a kid. Not really. And it's funny too because actually when when it comes to my siblings and I, it's actually funny because when we compare our personalities to my mother and her siblings, it's almost 1-to-1 in a sense. So I am most like my aunt, who was the oldest of my mother's siblings. My brother was a lot like our uncle, who was the middle child and the only boy. And then my sister and my mom were a lot alike. So it was literally birth order and personality was almost 1-to-1, as well as gender. But I don't remember them comparing me a lot. I tell them a secret, it might as well be on the internet. No, my parents were pretty good with keeping secrets. Never gives me my phone messages. No. Typically, if I ask if somebody called or something like that, they'll let me know. Won't let me lock the door of my room, barges in whenever. Kind of. I remember, I think, my dad breaking down my door, actually. And it was because I locked the door on him, and I wouldn't open it. And I think because at the time I was feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and this was again when we didn't really know that I was autistic and what was going on, so my dad just thought I was being a brat and I was abusing the privileges of having a lock. And so he broke my door down and then told me promptly that I would not be allowed to lock on my door anymore because I've abused that privilege, and yeah, that was taken away from me. He immediately took my locked door and replaced it with one that didn't lock. Which is funny because then obviously I think when I was a teenager, and as my parents have shown that obviously they eventually forget things, obviously I got real good at tinkering with things, and I eventually figured out how to replace the doorknob, and I remember buying myself a doorknob with a lock after he moved out. And it was just my mom. And it was because I needed it. I needed the lock so I could have my own space in a sense. But granted, I didn't use the lock, I felt like, that much. I used it more like in the mornings and stuff like that when I was getting changed. Because of the fact of, yes, people would just barge in. And I'm like, I'm changing here. Like, I'm half naked in my room. And then like they're like, boom, boom. Hey, you need something? I'm like, I need privacy. That's what I need. So yes. Insist that they trust me. Yeah, right. No, actually, I had my parents' trust pretty much. I still have my parents' trust, so never gets the joke. Kind of, actually. My parents are out of touch with, like, new age memes and stuff like that. My mom thinks our jokes are stupid. And, like, my sister and I will be laughing hysterically, and we'll be like, we get it, and it's stupid. And then my mom's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, apparently, Mom, you have too many brain cells. Fights with me 10 times a day about nothing. No. Fights were not that. Wow, I did not think that it was quite that bad. Getting there, borderline, tolerable around the house, but you don't necessarily want to be seen in public with them. Remember, as geeky as they may be, these strange creatures do love you. Be gentle with them, and maybe, just maybe, they will lighten up. They were getting divorced. Tolerable was pretty lenient for what was going on. Yeah, that quiz took a lot longer than I thought too, but yeah, so apparently my parents are tolerable. They're borderline. Goody. Let me save that result too. But yeah, no, overall, I think my parents, were awesome growing up, even considering everything that was going on. Obviously they had their faults. They still have their faults. Um and again, a thing that I learn as I get older is that obviously parents aren't gods, they're people too. So it's kind of one of those things where now being older, I think I have a better relationship with my parents because I'm older and because of the fact of I don't have as high expectations of my parents because I'm now at the stage where they're at in a sense. Yeah, I think overall still my parents were great parents. They weren't geeky, they weren't total losers. If anything, I was the total loser. So yeah, I definitely believe that my parents were great parents overall, and despite everything that was going on at the time. But yeah, so another long video, but glad to have done it. I will probably pick this up tomorrow, as well as I might actually branch out and try another game as well, just because as much as I love the idea of starting another series, I again already have a lot of series. And I'm presuming that this one is probably going to be more than 3 parts. So I'm thinking about trying some of the other games as well to see, get some more variety in there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. There's still so much to explore in this one CD. I'm kind of blown away by that. So I hope you stick around to see what the rest of the CD has to offer. And I'll see you guys there. Bye bye.